Hello everybody and welcome to Mr. Stansfield's Educational Videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to do a multiple exposure with a portrait and a landscape. So here we are in Bridge and you can see that I've made a couple of portraits here, and what I've done already, you can see that I've starred a couple that I think would be good for this project. I've got two different images here. This one was taken against a cloudy sky, and you can see that it's a lot brighter than the foreground, and the foreground is a little bit darker. And then this one here was taken in front of a window, and there is a large piece of foam core in the background. This is the one I'm going to choose to do this demo for. This one could also work. It's going to be really a personal choice. I've also made some pictures here of a leaf or two leaves, a couple of leaves, with some water droplets on it, and this is the image that we're going to try to blend into the portrait. So the first thing we're going to do is just double click on that image there, and it'll open it up in Photoshop. I'm going to hit the F key. That's going to give me this nice clean view, and then I don't have any of my tools or layers, so I'm going to hit the Tab key, and there they come back. If that's ever missing, you can go to Window, Workspace, click on Essentials, and it'll go back to the default. The first thing I'm going to do is crop this photo. This photo's composition looks pretty good, but I'm just going to crop out a little bit of that text and then also try to find a nice centered composition. This white around the portrait here I think looks pretty good. Maybe we'll move this over a little bit so that our eyes are closer to the center rather than actually centering everything perfectly. I think that looks good. We'll click OK. Looking at this at 100%, it appears that I overcropped up there. I saw that white line and I just needed to double check it at 100%. So what I'm going to do is undo and then just go back and do that again. I'm using some shortcut keys to navigate around here to zoom in and out. And the shortcut keys are as follows. Command plus will zoom into an image. Command minus will zoom out of an image. Command Option 0 will look at the image at 100%, and then Command 0 will look at it full screen. So here, let's take a look at those. Command plus, Command minus, Command Option 0 looks at it at 100%, and then Command 0 fits it to the screen. All right, the next step is going to be to actually resize this image. I'm going to go Image, Image Size. The shortcut key is Command Option 0. And I'm going to set up my final print output for this image before I go any further. So here I'm going to uncheck Resample Image, select 300 pixels per inch, reselect Resample Image. And what I've just done is basically figured out how big the image can print without making it any bigger than the original file. And you can see here it's going to print about 10 by 14. I'm going to go ahead and change this height to, let's just change it to 10. Let's make the longer side 10, let the width or the height, whichever is the shorter side, fall to wherever it will be, and then change the resolution to 300. And I think this will probably be good for a couple of steps that you'll see a little bit later on. The last step, when we're resizing, it was 40, it's now 18. I'm going to choose best for reduction because we're getting smaller. Went from a bigger number to a smaller number, click OK. Now, it did get smaller on the screen. Whatever happens on the screen, I can always zoom in and out though, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, moving right along. The first step in doing this process is to get a selection of the model away from the background. There are a bunch of ways that we can do that. One is to use the magic wand tool, sometimes referred to as the tragic wand tool, for all of the terrible mistakes that it can cause. But for something like this, especially if you had a color background, you know, that was only in the background, red or green or something like that in this example, if you click over here, it's going to make a selection. Now you can see a couple of things have happened here. The selection doesn't distinguish between the shirt and the background, so that's not going to work out very well. And then also that this area up here is darker and hasn't added the selection. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to hit undo. Command Z is the shortcut key. I'm going to go up here and change the tolerance to, let's try 1516. All right. So there you can see that this selection, it does make a distinction down here in the t-shirt, but it also isn't quite enough. So I'm going to hold the shift key and add some more. Still not working quite the way I want. I'm going to hit Command D for deselect. It's also available from the menu right here. And let's change that tolerance even lower. And I'm going to hold the Shift key, and you can see that when I hold the Shift key, I can keep adding to my selection here. This might be the best way to do this. I'm going to keep clicking around. Maybe not the best way, but certainly the fastest and quickest way to do this. So that seems to work. Maybe just add up here. This seems to work pretty well. We may have to make some adjustments later, but there it is. So what we're going to do is change the tolerance of the Magic Wand tool down to somewhere between 1 and 10. Hold the Shift key and continue to click around the background until just the background is selected. The next thing we're going to do is select the inverse. Everything's available from the Select menu here. Select inverse, you can see the shortcut key is Shift Command I. And the next step is to paste this layer into a new layer. And the shortcut key that I'm going to use is Command J. And if we uncheck the eyeball in the background, you can see that it has pasted this into a new layer with invisible background. That's what that checkered background is. It's saying it's invisible. Right? The next step is to fill the background with white. And in order to do that, you have to double click on the word background. It's going to say new layer, layer 0, say OK, that's fine. And then edit fill, the shortcut key is Shift F5, not Shift F and 5, but Shift and then the F5 key. And we're going to use white. We're going to fill this with white. And now, if we look at it 100%, maybe even 50%, you can really see why the Tragic Wand tool has its nickname. You see how janky the edge of this t-shirt is here. Shooting white on white was maybe not the best idea. This is something we probably should have done against maybe a bright green or some bright color background. There are a couple of other ways to do this. Maybe I'll put that in another video. For now, we're just going to go with it. We're not too worried about this jankiness at the moment. Command 0 will get me the full screen there. So we just filled our background with white. The next step is to actually open up the landscape. So we're going to go back to Bridge, and we're going to click on this, not a landscape, but a detail image of the leaf here. Before I do anything else, I think I might try to tweak this image. Maybe just go auto contrast, auto color, auto tone. Fine, okay. Not the best choice when you're editing images, but for the quickness and just to get this image to pop a little bit more, it's fine. I'm going to hit the F key on the keyboard, just the letter F twice to get this view right here. I'm going to grab the Move tool, which is this top tool right here. Click on this tab and drag it down. And then I'm going to click and drag it into this image right here. Now, as it stands, that's kind of an interesting image. It's something new and different than what we maybe have been able to do in Photoshop before. I'm just going to close this image, don't save. And I'm going to hit the F key again to get this nice full screen view. But we're not done yet, so we're going to drag this layer 2 to the top. And then we're going to command click on this layer 1 image. So you can see right here, not the word layer 1, but the layer itself. Command click right there, and you can see that the outline of our model shows up. The next step is to add a layer mask to this layer 2. So I'm just going to click on the image and then go down here to this little circle within a square. And then because I already made the selection, there is the beginning of our double exposure. The next step is to unlink the layer mask to the layer, and that's by clicking on this little chain right there. And then we're going to transform the image in the background here. So I'm going to click on the image, and then one of the things I can do with the Move tool selected is simply move it around. So this is going to be priority number 1 for doing this kind of adjustment. And the other thing that I can do, Command minus to zoom out a little bit, I can go Command T and transform this. I can rotate this image a little bit, and I think that's what I might try to do. Careful of that corner right there, so I'm going to move it around. And then the other thing I can do is actually extend the image, make it a little bit bigger, make it a little bit smaller. We'll try that. Let's see how that works. I'm going to click Enter to confirm the transformation. And what I'm going to do is actually select the layer 1 right here, Word, and then I'm going to click and drag that down. Right next to the trash can is this little, it looks like a page flipping over, and that's going to copy the background layer. I'm going to drag that to the top, and then we're going to desaturate this layer. And the easiest way to do that is to go Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation. You could also convert it to black and white by using the black and white. Let's just do a hue saturation and then drag the saturation all the way down. Click OK. And then change the blending mode of this to multiply. So we're going to go right here and then go down and find multiply. There it is. And you can see we're starting to get somewhere with this blending. We're going to add a layer mask to this top layer by clicking on the circle and the square. There's no selection, so it'll be white to begin with. We're going to hit D for default, and that'll give us default white and black. X will switch between these two colors. B, the key B, will give us the brush tool, or you can select it right here. And then if we go up here, we can change the hardness and size of our brush. We're going to get a nice soft brush, a nice big brush. The shortcut key, Command 0 to give us the full screen here. The shortcut key to make a brush bigger is the right bracket, and then the shortcut key to make a brush smaller is the left bracket. The shortcut key to make a brush harder or softer is Shift, and then right bracket will make it harder, and then left bracket will make it softer. And what we want to do is paint with black, so we can hit X to switch between the foreground and the background right here. Nice big soft brush. We want to paint pretty much everywhere except for the features of our subject. Now you can paint some of this away. Let's just paint the whole thing, and what we'll do is paint back. So if I hit X, I can start to bring some of these features back in. And then, you know, I think for this particular portrait, the V-neck right here actually kind of helps to sell the image a little bit more. Maybe we want to see the ear, the features there. And then if you wanted to paint back some of it, you can change the opacity of your brush, change it down to like 20 or 30 along with the flow, somewhere down there. And then you can paint back just a little bit to lighten, hit the X key to switch, and you can make it lighter or darker and certain things to kind of come out a little bit more. So I'm just hitting the X key, painting with this nice light 25% opacity, 25% flow, just to make it seem a little bit more of a natural transition between everything. So after editing this layer mask here, and if we had selected the image rather than the layer mask, we would run into some trouble there, but make sure you have the layer mask selected when you're going to paint. We're going to reduce the opacity of this layer as well, so we can just kind of make out some of those features. So this is an additional tool that you have, is to change the opacity. And you can see I'm just clicking on the word, and in CS5, the version of Photoshop we're using, you can just click on the word. The other thing you could do is just actually drag it down right here. So we definitely want to see some of those features, something like that. The other thing that will change how much of the features are featured, say that 10 times fast, is actually changing the original contrast. If I hold the Shift key and click on the layer mask and take away everything else, change this back to normal just for a second, just so we can see this image, change the opacity to 100. We could change the contrast of this image pretty easily. And here's one way that you can do it. So let's select everything, bring it all back here. If we change the mode back to multiply, if we went down here to the adjustments and added a curves layer on top of this layer, hold the Command and Option key and click in between, we can add a curves layer that only affects this layer 1 copy. I have to pause and create a new video because I'm about to hit the time length, so pause and then we'll come back.